Greetings, everyone. We are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Uhuru. Thank you so much for joining us. As we always do, guys, make sure you hit that like button as you come to the chat room. Again, please hit the like button. Also, you make sure you share, you subscribe to the content as well. If you're not a subscriber, go ahead and hit that subscription bell. Hit that subscription button. All right, please support the Search for Uhuru page. Like, share, and subscribe. Go to dynastymirror.com. And we are approaching 100,000 subscribers. Again, we are approaching 100,000 subscribers. Once we get to 100,000, I have a special giveaway for a lucky subscriber, everyone. And without further ado, we have a special guest on with us today. Congressman, he's been on before, Bimbo Daramola from Nigeria. But Congressman Daramola, are you currently in Zambia still?
Yeah, I'm still in Zambia. I'm speaking out of Zambia, Lusaka tonight.
Okay. And you're there for the funeral of Kenneth Kaunda, right? That was the first president of Zambia.
Brother. Absolutely, brother. It's so emotional to be here at this time. You won't know what it feels like until you come here. It looks like a chapter of pan-Africanism just closed.
Okay. So let's go, Congressman. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much, my brother. My name is Congressman Bimbo Daramola. I used to be in the Nigerian Parliament, 2011 to 2015, member House of Representatives, and as I'm a congressman. And then I also served in the Parliament between the years of 2015 and 2019. I used to be a presidential advisor to President Olusegun Obasanjo, and I'm a pan-Africanist in the call.
Okay. Now let's talk about our former president, Mr. Kaunda. What impact did he have not only on Zambia but on Africa in general? And why should we? Yes.
Thank you very much for that very good question. Well, there are too many perspectives to the life of President Kenneth David Bucheliza Kaunda. I remember I was on television here and I was on radio here, telling Zambians that you guys best know him for being your first president, the founding president. But this guy, there's much in the life of President Kaunda, and I think people need to go back in history. But then I'll share a little bit of that. Now, it's interesting to tell you that at the funeral service on Wednesday, there was nobody that spoke about this man. Within the first two sentences, the first thing that they say about this sage, this great man, is a thoroughbred, or, well, excuse me to refer to him in the present. But then at the same time, yes, it's gone now, but the truth of the matter is that everybody refers to him as the epitome, the signature tune of Pan-Africanism. But let me break it down a little bit so that you can have a clear understanding of what this guy has done, or what this sage has done on the continent of Africa. The entire Southern Africa couldn't have been able to get 95% of the independent countries of the Southern Africa today wouldn't have been able to come up to that point. Maybe they would have been able to come to that point at some point, but the point is that they've been able to get their independence because President Kenneth Kaunda provided the strong backbone for all of the aspiration, the liberation movement, for South Africa, for Zimbabwe, either to call North Rhodesia, and then Congo, and all of those things. Little wonder that President Cyril Ramaphosa had to declare 10 days of mourning in solidarity with the good people of Zambia, as a measure of acknowledgement of the role that President Kenneth Kaunda played. And I had to say this on television, that the Zambians, probably underrated, and not, maybe with due respect, does not understand how well this man, the veneration of this man, the reverential purpose that this man has served on this continent. Let me tell you, 15th of September in 1945, there were few gentlemen and sages who were at that meeting in Manchester, United Kingdom, who advanced the cause of the independence of the then so-called African states. It was President Kwame Nkrumah who said to them at that meeting, in closing, it was the one that gave the closing statement at that meeting, a closing charge, and he said, guys, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time that we rise from this meeting, that African states are now ready for independence. This was in 1945, and I'm delighted to tell you that President Kenneth Kaunda, David Kaunda, was at that meeting. He not only provided a bulwark against the raging and the surging attempts of Russia. Don't forget that there was a mad rush for the continent of Africa around that time. Africa was cannibalized around, interest. The West, Belgium having to take the entire places of Angola and places around some parts of the middle Central Africa, and then of course Nigeria, Ghana, Togo to Leopold Senghor, and France by extension. Nigeria became an Anglophone. Leopold Senghor, Senegal of Leopold Senghor belonged to Francophone, the Malis of this world, and all of those things. So, but the southern part, the region advances to checkmate the further incursion of the colonialists was stopped literally by President Kenneth David Kaunda. He made sure that Zambia became the launch pad for every attempt to secure South Africa. It became the launch pad to secure Zimbabwe. It became the launch pad to secure. Everybody came to Zambia and then rippled out from Zambia. And today it's a measure of nostalgia for me, standing, with Zambians. And I was in that church service, that funeral, and I saw that. When I walked past the corpse of this man, I said, Africa owed this man a whole lot of gratitude.
And so how was that experience? How was the funeral? How many heads have had the state with?
Well, my brother, I cannot describe it. It felt like the very first time that I set my eyes on President David Kaunda. I remember as I walked past his corpse, I was totally, I was numb. It was electrifying. It was electrifying to see the man I had only seen 1 year earlier in his house, in Lusaka, who came out to me and gave me that very reassuring handshake and said to me that I am delighted that you guys have taken the baton and taken the charge that I commended to these young people about 25 years ago, that the future of Africa and the future of pan-Africanism would be defined by the disposition of young people to pan-Africanism. And now, in fact, what we were planning, we got an approval to plan a pan-African 96th anniversary birthday for him. That was supposed to connect, that was supposed to connect the present with the past so as to secure the future. But unfortunately, we had to come back here 1 year later. COVID-19 didn't allow us to actualize that. But we had to come back here, and it turned out to be his funeral that we had to attend. So in church on that day, don't forget that before we came here 4 or 5 days earlier. But the corps had gone round the 10 provinces of Zambia, and you needed to see the way Zambians lined the route for this man. And on Wednesday, I've never seen such a moving atmosphere. You would know that a great man only just passed. You cannot deny the fact that a chapter only just closed. You cannot deny the fact that a sage only just returned back. Everything, it looked like a dark pall set upon the continent of Africa. And I commend you to please take a look at and listen to the speech, the further oration of President Lazarus Chakwera of Malawi. You will capture that speech. Best captures the essence of the man, the sage, the Mohican, the last of the Titans, called Kenneth Kaunda.
So what's next? So former President Kaunda has passed away. You know, we continue to talk about pan-Africanism in Africa. Me personally, I believe Nigeria should be leading the way. So what's next? What can Nigerian leadership learn from Kenneth Kaunda?
Thank you very much, my brother. As I speak so fondly of this stage that only just passed, and I'm saying to myself, one of the things I said in my tribute to him was that 54 nations on the continent of Africa, 54 leaders, 1.74 billion people on this continent. Are we going to allow the good works of this man to be interred in his bones? Will the effort, the attempt to restore Africa to its place of cradle be allowed to go to waste? Would all of these efforts of this great sage end in beautifully crafted funeral orations, beautiful dirges and speeches? If this continent allows herself to end the life of President Kaunda at the level of beautiful orations, funeral orations, dirges, and speeches, we would have done an eternal damage to the memory of not only President Kaunda, but people, compatriots of his life, the forebears in the nature of this man. What are we talking about today? You will discover that there's a gap between the generation of the Kaundas and our generation.
Right. Huge gap.
What is the nexus today? The gap keeps widening by the day.
Right.
Until we consciously and deliberately and intentionally go back in time and retrace our steps. I say this every time. Africa and Africans will never be able to realize our fullest potentials, the possibilities on this continent, and of course, the prospects inherent in this continent. Make no mistakes about it. People may, some people have said that, Pan-Africanism outlived its usefulness. That is no longer in currency. But I'm quick to tell them, for all of the years that they have abandoned the essence and the spirit and the philosophy of Pan-Africanism, have we gotten better for it? That's the question.
No.
Now, Africans live in mutual distrust. Now, Africans live in hate. There's black on black violence. And of course, all that we hear today is economics, economy, economics, and economy. So the question to ask is, are we talking about economy for the people or the people for the economy? Which one comes first? And this is not a case of the chicken and the egg, or the egg and the chicken. On this continent, 54 nations, 1.74 billion, we have less, now talking about economy, we have less than 15 corporate entities that are known in 13, maximum 20 nations on the continent. So what's the point? You leave Nigeria with an MTN, one of the continental corporate institutions. You leave Nigeria with your SIM card. You can't even get to Ghana and put on your phone and begin to make calls. Not to talk of coming to Zambia or coming to Ghana or coming to Malawi. It's as bad as that. As simple as communication between brothers is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So now in September 2019, while the World Economic Summit was going on in the Republic of South Africa, right on the adjoining street, Africans were killing themselves.
Right.
So how do you, for instance, maximize the opportunity in the market, the African market, if brothers see themselves as enemies? How? If you live on the same street with anybody for 40 years, for 50 years, if you're not as good as cousins or as brothers, if your house is on fire, nobody will stand up for you. So we're here today, and listen, when was the last time you saw the non-verbal communication of presidents of Africa holding hands, putting arms around each other's shoulders, visiting themselves, discussing on the sidelines of African Union? All we see today is they go for formal meetings, for plenaries, and of course, no meetings on the sidelines.
Right.
And of course, there's no opportunity for non-verbal communication. And so when there's no non-verbal communication, the people can't connect the fact that our presidents who behave like brothers should ripple to us as citizens to recognize that whoever is an African remains a brother.
Right. So,
my brother, the future is very bleak. One United Africa is committed to this, the shoes that President Kenneth Kaunda, and I'm happy and delighted, and I thank Almighty God that we were able to meet with this man. When we met him, the first thing he said to me is that, how are our people from home, referring to Nigeria?
Mm-hmm.
And my guards went down. Go and check the second stanza of the anthem, the national anthem of Federal Republic of Zambia. He talked about Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. He didn't talk about Zambia. He talked entirely. The second stanza of the national anthem of Federal Republic of Zambia was all about Africa. Go and check. So when you said Nigeria should take the lead, maybe by population,
okay, maybe
by presence, but the truth of the matter is that I would rather give the credence to a nation under the watch of the likes of Kenneth Kaunda, who introduced the concept of one united Africa into the national anthem of their nation. I don't know of any nation on the continent of Africa that has the concept of Africanism, pan-Africanism in a national anthem. Not even Nigeria that you mentioned about. It's not about size. It's not about wealth. It's about conviction. And of course, the lives and times of President Kenneth Kaunda had showed clearly that some people had given up all of their lives to the unity of this continent. And we cannot do anything short of that. And that's why One United Africa is resolved, resolute, intentional, deliberate about taking this mantle from there. It's going to be tough, no doubt about it. And we're conscious of that. But we ask every African out there to recognize, and the blacks in diaspora, to join this trade. Let us salvage the remnants of this continent, the vestiges of this continent. The last of the Titan is gone today. In 10 years, I guarantee you, my brother, in 10 years, if we don't do this in quick turnaround time, we will discover that the continent of Africa will be infested and totally taken over by hate, by mutual suspicion, and so much of dangers that it will be for Nigeria to Ghana. It will be for a Nigerian for a Ghanaian to come to Nigeria. It will be that bad. And this is not nihilistic. This is not narcissistic. This is just the truth. I know it. When the Yvonne Chaka Chaka, a renowned singer on this continent, got deported from Uganda, you should know that there is crisis and there is fire on the mountain.
We have a question in the chat room. If the future is bleak, then what direction do you suggest we can avert the acceleration of our proposed demise? Which direction should we go into? Avoid.
First and foremost, let me tell that guy in the chat room not to despair. It wasn't easy in 1945 when these forebears of the continent committed themselves to the struggle for a world united Africa. It wasn't easy. They wanted to kill them. Their lives were on the risk. We need to form ourselves into a huge band. A critical mass must emerge from now. If anybody's in that chat room and listening to me, make no mistakes about it. We need to introduce a new narrative in town. Americans will say when a new sheriff comes into town, everything changes. There's a battle for mind share. This is a battle for mind share. And so, if you depict Pan-Africanism as a circle, the substantial chunk of that circle has been taken over by hate, by mutual suspicion, by distrust, by exploiters. So the tiny aspect that is remaining is for us to engage and have a battle of mindshare. We must put ourselves forward to say, no, there must be a new narrative to engage the narrative. Listen, you don't allow your family's China ware to drop through your fingers.
All right.
How does it help us if we're divided? Today, Africa is more like a continent of nations that lives in closets. We need to change that.
And another question someone had in the chat room. Now, there's been, I don't know if it's the facts behind it, but there's been a lot of rumors saying that China is pretty much owns Zambia. Is that true? And how would while this is going on, how would Dr. Kaunda feel about this, or has he ever spoke about this at all?
Well, China is everywhere. There's no doubt about that. China is everywhere. China is in Nigeria. China is in Ghana. China is in Mozambique. China is in Zambia. China is everywhere. And why this is going on is because there's no engagement. People are profiteering from the fact that there's no unity in Africa. And so we cannot regulate how far China can go with Africa. So if China continue to advance their interest, of course, purely economic, China does not hold the continent of Africa anything. China is in pursuit of expansion of economic interest. End of story. So what we need to do is to go back in time and quickly go back in time and say, hey, where did we go off the mark?
Right.
Where did we go off the mark? And where we went off the mark is that how did we raise a generation or two generations on the continent of Africa that totally neglected the Pan-African philosophy? How? So if China recognizes that we're not together and we're in splinters, we're in smithereens. We must be up and alive to recognize the fact that for as long as we cannot form ourselves into one undivided bunch, we will continue to remain very vulnerable. There's a Kenyan proverb that goes like this: if spiders will unite and form that intrinsically woven web, they will stop an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about time for the guys in the bracket. Don't forget that Africa has been described as the continent with the youth bulge. 65 to 68% of the population of the entire continent. There are guys between the ages of 15, 20 to 40. So these guys must come around now in quick turnaround time and realize that no set of people abandons their history and be great. It's not possible.
Guys,
we're able to go back in time and walk in the footsteps of the Kwame Nkrumahs, of the Leopold de Sengos, of Mwali Mujolet Nyerere, of Jomo Kenyatta, of Zeke of Africa, and all of these characters, of Ifet Bogby. These are the kind of characters that we must revisit their impact and their vision so that we can salvage the future of this continent.
Guys, link is in the chat room. If you want to call in and ask a question, we'll take a couple callers. Link is in the chat room. Click on the link and you're more than welcome to call in and ask a question. Again, link is in the chat room. If you'd like to call in and add to the conversation, you're more than welcome to. We're going to take a couple callers, then we'll go ahead and start closing out. Bibi Rodriguez says, no ownership, however, extracting the commodities and abusing the land and our people. What are your thoughts on that? Is China extracting our commodities and abusing the land and African people? Is there a truth to that?
It goes without saying.
Mm-hmm.
It goes without saying. Most of the agreements that are signed by China, that people have contracted with China, does not advance the interest of the African people.
Uh-huh.
The devil is in the details. So go back and check if the ultimate purpose, and you cannot blame China. Actually, we're vulnerable. We take decisions in silos, and so we're closet nations. We can't even undertake clear-cut review mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't compare notes. And so we're vulnerable. We're laid bare. Let me make this clear to you. I don't have any economic interest in this.
Go ahead.
By the grace of God, I used to be a member of the parliament. I'm a businessman. I'm a successful man as modestly as possible. But it doesn't gratify me to know that my brother in Ghana is my enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe very strongly that the opportunities inherent on this continent, the potentials that are available, and the prospects of this continent can only be invested in the interest and the larger interest of the African population and the African nations by themselves. If we come together, there is no negotiation.
All right, guys. Link is in the chat room. Link is in the chat room. Click on that link, and you're more than welcome to call in and ask a question. Congressman, now, what is Nigeria doing specifically to engage the diaspora? When I mean diaspora, we're not speaking of Nigerian diaspora, but African Americans, Jamaicans, etc.
Isn't that one of the things you're saying?
Right.
The receivables coming from the diaspora from Nigeria is about 1/3 of our earnings. If not 1/3 or 1/4 of our total receivables. I had a chance to go to India. I was in the House Committee on Diaspora, and I went for the 50th year anniversary of Indians in Diaspora.
Mm-hmm.
And Indians in diaspora have contributed so much to define the landscape and the the growth of the nation of India today. So we can't continue to talk about the Nigerian diaspora. We should gravitate from there and turn it around and go to the extent of saying Africans in diaspora. Do you know the number of Ghanaians in diaspora and the receivables therefrom? The Zambians in diaspora, Nigerians in diaspora. You know the challenge about Francophone African countries today and what the struggle is with the levies and taxes that they pay to France.
All right, so what we'll do, we'll go ahead and start closing out. Congressman, anything else you'd like to share in closing with our people? Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you once again. I'm delighted. It feels very good that you have provided your medium to be. You're doing your bit, and I hope that your own efforts will inspire many more people in the media, in the corporate sector, to understand that this is not about an individual. It's about continent. This is about us saying that we need to form a bulwark to defend ourselves. People can't jeopardize unity for economy or economics. And I believe very strongly that the guys in this chat room, I hope and pray that you will see through. There's a book that I want you to, please give me that book. This book is there. There's a book that I will commend to all Africans to read. We have a shared history. This book, The State of Africa.
Okay.
I commend this book to all Africans. You would know that our shared history should bind us together and not define us.
All right.
We're in a position where we need to maximize our opportunities, relying on the fact that we've come from a long way, from way back. And we cannot continue. Listen, the phobias are gone now, particularly with that chapter closing up with President Kenneth Kaunda. So there goes a comment, one comment another. If we allow ourselves to get consumed by the euphoria of what we see today, we will blame ourselves for it. And I hope the younger generation will enlist into this. Let us form a critical mass that we can engage our leaders and return them to the position where our phobias started. This is the only way that we can indeed chart a fresh course for the continent of Africa and Africans.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Congressman Daramola, thank you so much for joining. I will see you in Abuja next month.
I look forward to seeing you in Abuja next month.
I will be there. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. Like, share, subscribe. Until next time, family, Dynasty Mir, search for Huru. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.